In our last Borderless Score ranking, Georgia took the #1 position, 48 out of 60. Monthly cost under €820. Tax rate on foreign income, 0. Most people researching relocation in 2026 had never seriously considered it, until they saw the data. 3 weeks ago, Erdogan stood up and announced a 20-year tax exemption on foreign source income for anyone relocating to Turkey. 0%. For 20 years. Not an incentive program, not a pilot scheme, a statutory exemption, announced at the presidential level, with parliamentary submission expected in the near term. So, I've run Turkey through the exact same 6 factors we used to score Georgia. The number has changed. The #1 country for financially motivated relocation in 2026 may no longer be the one we ranked first. The one question everyone is asking. Before we get into the comparison, one clarification. Because this question is sitting in the comments of every Turkey tax video posted in the last 2 weeks. Is this actually law yet? As of the date this video was recorded, no. The legislation has been announced by the President and is expected to be submitted to Parliament imminently. It is not yet enacted. We will tell you clearly, at every point in this analysis, where a score is conditional on that legislation passing. Borderless living does not score on speculation. We score on data. And today, we'll show you both scenarios. Methodology. That if you've seen our previous rankings, you know the framework. Quick version for new viewers. The Borderless Score measures every country across 6 factors: cost efficiency, tax environment, visa accessibility, healthcare quality, lifestyle value, and long-term wealth building potential. Each factor scores out of 10. Maximum total, 60. Georgia's established score, 48 out of 60. That is the benchmark Turkey has to beat. Let's go through all 6. Factor 1. Cost efficiency. Georgia, 10 out of 10. Tbilisi runs under €900 a month for a comfortable single-person lifestyle. By current Numbeo data, it is one of the lowest cost capitals available to Western relocators, without compromising urban infrastructure. That score is hard to argue with. Turkey, 7 out of 10. Istanbul is not Tbilisi. A realistic professional lifestyle in Istanbul, not a frugal one, not a tourist one, runs €1,200 to €1,500 per month. That is a €300 to €600 monthly premium over Georgia, every month, before tax. That gap matters considerably at lower income levels. It matters considerably less at higher ones. We'll come back to this. One more variable worth naming: the Turkish lira. If you're earning in dollars or euros and spending in lira, the exchange rate historically gives you a discount. That discount is real. It's also volatile. We don't score on currency speculation. The base monthly cost is what it is. Cost efficiency: Turkey, 7. Georgia, 10. Factor 2. Tax environment. This is where Turkey's announcement changes everything. Under current Turkish tax law, a resident pays progressive income tax up to 40% on worldwide income. That is not competitive, at all. The proposed legislation changes the structure entirely. Any individual who has not been a Turkish tax resident for the previous 3 years and who relocates to Turkey pays 0% on all foreign source income. For 20 years. Not 5, not 10, 20. For context, Portugal's NHR regime lasted 10 years, and people called it revolutionary. Georgia's territorial tax gives you 0 on foreign income if you stay under 183 days. But the moment you establish full residency, you need a specific legal structure to protect that treatment. Without registering as a virtual zone entity or small business, full-year Georgian residents can face taxation on foreign income. It's manageable, but it requires active management. The Turkish proposal gives you 20 years of 0% treatment as a full legal resident. No day count juggling required. That's not an estimate. That's the statutory text of the announced legislation. If it passes, Georgia scores 9 out of 10 on this factor. 0% on foreign income is exceptional, but a 20-year codified guarantee edges it. I am scoring Turkey at 8 out of 10 for now. Here's why. The legislation is announced. Parliamentary submission is expected. But it has not yet been formally submitted, let alone enacted. Borderless living does not hand a 10 to a policy that isn't law yet. When it passes, and the political signals suggest it will, update this score yourself. The scorecard in the description lets you do exactly that. Tax environment. Turkey 8, Beko. Factor 3. Visa accessibility. Georgia, 9 out of 10. 365-day visa-free entry for most Western, North American, and Gulf nationals. No income threshold, no application. You land, you're in. You can stay a year. Turkey, 8 out of 10. Most Western nationals get 90 days visa-free. Beyond that, a short-term residence permit is available through property rental or ownership. The process is documented and consistent, but it requires you to actually do something. Turkey doesn't have an official digital Nomad visa under the current framework. Georgia gives you a full year before that question even comes up. Visa accessibility. Turkey 8, Georgia 9. If this kind of structured comparison is useful to you, and you want every future Borderless Score ranking the moment it drops, subscribing takes about 3 seconds. We're building out head-to-head country reports across 2026. Subscribers get them first. Factor 4. Healthcare. Georgia, 5 out of 10. Private healthcare in Tbilisi is affordable and covers most needs. The public system is limited. For most relocators, that means budgeting €50 to €100 a month for private insurance. Manageable, but it's a real line item. Turkey, 7 out of 10. Istanbul's private healthcare infrastructure is a different league. Multiple internationally accredited hospitals. English-speaking specialists across most disciplines. Costs still well below Western European benchmarks. If you're relocating with family, or you have ongoing healthcare needs, Turkey's score here is not a minor detail. Healthcare. Turkey 7, Georgia 5. Factor 5. Lifestyle value. Georgia, 8 out of 10. Tbilisi is genuinely underrated. Great food, interesting architecture, real nightlife, outdoor access an hour from the city. But English penetration is lower than most Western relocators expect. And the city has a ceiling. It is not a global hub, and it doesn't pretend to be. Turkey, 9 out of 10. Istanbul is, by any objective measure, one of the great cities on Earth. Direct flights to over 300 destinations, a food culture that genuinely needs no introduction, the infrastructure of a major G20 economy. If your work or lifestyle requires the connectivity of a serious international city, this comparison isn't particularly close. Lifestyle. Turkey 9, Georgia 8. Factor 6. Long-term wealth building. This is the factor most analyses ignore entirely, and it's the one that changes the most here. Georgia, 7 out of 10. The territorial tax system is stable. The cost base remains attractive. But the political picture has deteriorated materially since we last scored this country. Georgia's EU accession negotiations, which gave the country long-term credibility as a forward-looking destination, have been suspended until 2028. And that's not just a pause. The European Commission stated publicly last year that Georgia's EU candidate status now exists, in their exact words, only on paper. For anyone making a 5 to 10-year wealth-building decision, that is a risk your spreadsheet needs to account for. Turkey, 9 out of 10. NATO member, G20 economy, 85 million people. Istanbul real estate, priced in hard currency, has demonstrated consistent long-term appreciation. Turkish citizenship is available through property investment at $400,000. And critically, a 20-year tax-free regime for foreign earners creates a compounding wealth environment that a 5-year or 10-year window simply cannot replicate. The lira is a real risk. We're not pretending otherwise. But for a foreign income earner spending in lira and holding assets in hard currency volatility is a management question, not a disqualifier. Long-term wealth building, Turkey 9, Georgia 7. The score reveal. Georgia, 48 out of 60, our previous number 1. Turkey, with the proposed legislation scored at 8, not 10, 48 out of 60, tied. With the legislation fully enacted, scored at 10, Turkey reaches 50 out of 60. That is the first time any country has exceeded Georgia's score since we launched this framework. Take that seriously. But here's what the data actually shows. And this is the part most of the commentary online is getting completely wrong. The verdict. Income dependent. The tied score at 48 hides something important. Georgia's score is built on exceptional cost efficiency and visa accessibility. It is the highest scoring option for the financially motivated relocator under $60,000 in annual income, because at that level, the cost savings actively compound the tax benefit. The maths works in Georgia's favor and keeps working. Turkey's score is built on lifestyle, long-term wealth potential, and, conditionally, a once-in-a-generation tax regime. Its cost premium only becomes irrelevant when the income generating that tax saving is large enough to absorb the extra €400 a month. Here is the number that matters. The crossover point. The income level at which Turkey's tax advantage outweighs Georgia's cost advantage sits at approximately $60,000 to $80,000 in annual foreign source income. Below $60,000, Georgia wins. The maths doesn't change, regardless of how good Istanbul's food is. Above $80,000, and with the Turkish legislation enacted, Turkey scores 50 out of 60. It becomes the new number 1. The tax saving on income above that threshold, compounded over 20 years, is not a number any cost of living differential can offset. Between $60,000 and $80,000, you're in the gray zone. Your decision comes down to how you weight lifestyle, healthcare, and long-term political stability, all factors where Turkey leads. There's no clean answer. That's why there's a gray zone. The right country is never just the one with the highest headline score. It's the one that matches your income structure, your tax situation, and your wealth-building horizon. That is exactly what the Borderless Score is built to surface. We'll update this comparison the moment the Turkish legislation is enacted. If you want that update when it drops, not weeks later when it's all over Twitter, subscribe. It's the only way to get it in real time. Download the Borderless Score Turkey versus Georgia comparison scorecard in the description. Every factor, every number, laid out so you can weight them against your own income profile and reach your own conclusion. If you want to go back and see the full Georgia deep dive, every factor scored from scratch, every number sourced, that video is linked on screen now. That's where the 48 came from. And if you're sitting in that gray zone, $60,000 to $80,000, and lifestyle weight matters to your decision, watch our Spain breakdown next. Spain scored 44 out of 60, lower than Georgia on cost, but stronger on EU access and established infrastructure. For some income profiles and some life situations, it's the right answer that neither Georgia nor Turkey gives you. Drop your income range in the comments. Below $60,000, between $60,000 and $80,000, or above $80,000. I want to know which side of the line most of this audience sits on. I read every one. Move smarter. Live wealthier. Go borderless.